Hi, it's Jessie. I'm back again, and it is like 90 degrees outside, but when God speaks, I listen, so I'm coming back to make another video. I got cut short before because time constraints on the video, and I can't record past 30 minutes, and it takes me an hour to upload, blah, 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 so on and so forth. I gotta wait an hour, and then I have other things to do, so finally, here I am. I had a minute to spare, and I'm coming back to speak, okay? Now, I said something earlier about lawlessness. We're on the subject of lawlessness, and us waiting on it to be revealed who the person of lawlessness is, right? And because when God speaks, I listen. We have to go back further than Aristotle, right? We have to go back further than Aristotle. And we have to understand that, remember I was talking about how people make pyramids, and they have the wealthy on top, and then they build gates, and then they have, it like comes down like a pyramid with a hierarchy, with the people on the bottom being milked for everything they have, and being condemned in this whole master-slave relationship. And the term pyramid actually comes out of Egypt, right? Because they built these great pyramids, right? And they built them through slavery, right? But the people who were enslaved in Egypt were the Jews, right? And so when the Jews came out of Egypt, when they came out of bondage, Moses was given the law. And when he was given the law, he said people who belonged to his nation, people that were in covenant with his nation, were subject to the rule of law that God passed down to him, and everybody who wasn't under this umbrella was subject to the power of agreement, okay? And I will tell you, the power of agreement is a very nasty thing, going back before Aristotle, where men are ruled by what they can agree on. It is, in fact, lawless, where we have two systems opposing one another. This is the system that Moses built, that under his umbrella there was safety, there was liberty, there was law, there was a system of justice in place. But outside of his rule, you're subject to the power of agreement. So what you can agree on, what is your opinion as to what is best. And they quickly learn that they can't govern that way, and so they copied the model from the Jews and set up different systems of government over the time, right? That would allow for liberated peoples. And Moses, even through his law, through the power of agreement that was within his law, people had a choice of what the law would be. And can't remember the exact place the verse is right now, but there's one spot in here where they say that they have overruled God, because God would say that if this is too hard for you, then do this, and so when something was too hard for them, they would all come together and they would change the law, right? And so you see how the power of agreement not only ruled outside of the covenant, but inside of the covenant, right? So we have law, and then we have, which is rock solid, which comes from God, and then we have man. See, this law that comes down from God, it's kind of vague. It gives you 10 commandments, and he tells you to abide by these. And then Moses, in his infinite wisdom, set up a system of government with the priesthood, and he allowed also for kings to come in, not by design, not originally. Like originally it was the priest who did govern. But later on, like through Samuel, the people wanted a king so that they could compete with other nations out in the world. And so now kings come in, and God gave them this warning: if you take a king, he's going to make you a slave. He's going to turn you. He's going to oppress you. He's going to take your daughters and make them bakers of their bread. Take your sons and put them to battle for them, They warned, he warned them about the dangers of having a king to rule over you, because in effect Israel needs no king because God is their king. So when they chose an earthly king, God was a little miffed with them, and he told them, this is the punishment for your choice, and they accepted it and demanded their king still. So they got Saul, and then they got David, and then they got Solomon, and they got a bunch of fighting for power, right? A bunch of power grabs, a bunch of people saying, I will lead you, do what I say. Sometimes I will oppress you and take your power from you when it suits me, when I can, garnish other people around you to oppress you. And then sometimes I'm going to use my position to give you power and make you great, to show you favor. So there's no consistency when you have this king, right? Which is part of the reason why where a king, when he gives a decree, if he goes against his decree, then he can be put to death. Pardon me. I'm sorry, I'm trying to unpack what was given to me, and it came in a lot faster than it's coming out, right? So this whole power of agreement thing, that goes without the law, Well, let me do it this way, because this is the way that it was explained to me, right? This whole abortion debate, right? Should we be pro-choice or pro-life? From what I said earlier, I said I respect your choice, but actually, I only respect your choice when I have to judge your choice within the constraints of the law that is upon us, that demands democracy, that the people rule themselves, that demands a power of agreement. And if there is to be a power of agreement, then the law must be neutral in its position. It can neither be pro-choice or pro-life, which is why, I can say that I understand both sides of the issue, and I respect your choice, and it's not a choice for me. And it's not to say that I think that there should be laws enabling abortion. It's not to say that I think there should be laws banning abortion. Because if we back up a few steps in the laws that we have, the law has to be vague. And then man has to interpret it. Like with Moses, with the Jewish people, what they had was the written Torah, and then they also had an oral Torah to explain it out. So when it comes to like abortion, like it's a matter of, is it murder or is it lawful, right? And part of the debate is dependent upon when life becomes life. Like Catholics will say that life begins at the moment of conception, whereas Jews will tell you that life begins when it comes out of the womb. In secular circles, life begins when there's a heartbeat, right? So they have made abortion legal, but then they have said, like, we'll have a 6-week ban because, this is where the heartbeat starts. And then it's a 12-week or a 24-week ban because, this is where life can be viable outside of the womb, not really at 12 weeks, but more so at 24 weeks, even though it would take great medical intervention for life to be viable outside of the womb, But what they're really saying is, this is the moment that life begins, and this is the moment where we cannot take it past this point because it would be murder. But all these things are subject to opinion, right? There's what we think today is different from what we think tomorrow, and what we think today is different in every circle. So it's like impossible to pass a law that is neutral and governing all these things, right? But if we go back 10 steps You see, these lawless nations that don't provide you with things, what they do is they teach you to eat each other so that you find satisfaction in making sex sport, so that you find satisfaction in eating each other, because that is basically what you're doing. Instead of setting up like opportunities out in the world for you to occupy your time with, whether it's work or recreation, they're saying there's not enough space in recreation to occupy everyone's time. There's not enough space in leisure to occupy everyone's time. There's not enough space in work to occupy everyone's time. So basically what we're telling you is that it's okay to have sex for sport. Now, if you see, this is where I get myself in trouble, because I believe that sex is the benefit of marriage. And even though I have never been married and I have 4 children, I once believed that I was going to marry the father of my children. I believed that we were going to get there. And, I didn't expect a lot of things to happen after I was pregnant. I didn't expect him to leave me and tell me to get an abortion the moment I told him I was pregnant. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect the pressure around me to come down, and for me to lose my whole community of support that I had at the time, because I was pregnant, and because there were people who wanted to suppress my pregnancy and force me to get an abortion. And so, they controlled the narrative around me, and it was just harsh nonsense. And it made me understand that I made a mistake by not sticking to what I believed in the first place, by not sticking to my Constitution, by believing that a promise would be kept down the road, by allowing love to be awoken before its time, as Solomon would say. There's great danger in that, where you risk everything for love, and then you find out, oh wow, I'm in so much, oh man, it's so much pain, so much trouble, so much turmoil, so much strife, so much struggle, but if I had clinged with my earliest conviction that sex is the benefit of marriage, I would not have gotten myself into the positions that I had gotten myself into, and I would not be in the position that I'm in now. But you see, no one taught me this as a child. This was my inner constitution from God, that, it's wrong to just have random sex, that it's wrong to have sex for sport. I saw when I was in, junior high, 7th graders being pregnant, and when I was like 16, I met a girl who was 10 when she gave birth to her first child. I see all these things, and it makes you understand that, sex has to be the benefit of a union, because it's likely to produce a life if you don't, if you make a mistake and don't understand how your body works, if you believe someone's lies and tell you that, birth control is foolproof, that condoms always work, that people will follow laws and they'll keep their word, you'll get yourself in all kinds of trouble, you have to have this earliest conviction that sex is a union between 2 people. It's a covenant, and it's to be respected and honored. But if other people don't believe that, you're in a bad position, because other people can come and tell you lies and make you think that they're like you when they're not like you. You could think that you've found your soulmate, you found your partner, and in fact you've just been robbed, you've just been hoodwinked, you've just been taken for a turn, and if I had gates to protect me, it would have been a wonderful thing. But unfortunately my father had passed, unfortunately I had no support. Unfortunately, the support that I did have, they weren't really support, though they showed a nice face, though they treated me with kindness, though they act like we we had a real relationship, having me bring food for them all the time, like lots of validation and lots of approval in that relationship, okay? But I realize now that that person who I thought was my gate, my person who I thought I could trust, my wise counselor, it didn't turn out that way, because he was apparently selling me to his friends as a booty call material, that I'm not fit for a relationship, but I'll do what you say. You just show me these kind words, and you just make these promises, and you act this way, and I'll respond by, bringing you dinner every day, even though that was inappropriate for that relationship of my wise counselor and I. You don't understand things. You don't understand the way that things work, because you're young and you're learning, and your father's passed, and there's no one to help you. No one to teach you. No one wants to see you succeed. Everyone's trying to get what they can get out of you. The world is a lawless place. And then you come up and you see these people. They're saying, okay, well, you decide the law. You decide the law. You go ahead, you decide the law. And you're like, I can't decide the law. I wasn't given the law. But I understand how you rule, because it used to be that people would wait for marriage, and if they didn't wait for marriage, there was utter shame until somebody else made it okay. It used to be that if a boy got a girl pregnant, that father would show up with a shotgun, and they'd have themselves a little shotgun wedding. But then we turned that around, because that's too much violence, It used to be that people were afraid to do wrong, but now they understand there's no consequence. We can have sex for sport, and no consequence, because we can kill the child. But the thing that we don't understand with the law that Moses brought, the thing that we don't understand is that when God gave us children, he gave them for our redemption. So when we kill the child, we lose our redemption. We stay as we are, condemned. We stay eating each other, having sex for sport, with no hope of building a better future, because all we do is consume one another, right? That child would have taught you to have a committed relationship, to care for someone outside of yourself, to put some laws before your desires, to decide what was right, It would establish some community, maybe. It might have brought your family closer together. Where maybe you have problems in some places, this child is a bond. Because say you have a problem with your sister or something, this child is that sister's an aunt now, This child was meant to mend relationships. And you're supposed to take your role in these relationships more serious than you do, And it's hard for me to speak of this law when it contradicts my own life, because my sisters, they were never there for me, okay? Even when they were there for me, they still weren't there for me, And it wasn't so much an effect of their character as it was the way that the world operates, When we have a sister, your pain should be our pain, Your struggle should be our struggle. We lift each other up and we go up together, Not we put off our problems on somebody else. We defer our responsibility to somebody else. That's where I got $1 million in hospital bills, because a sister deferred her responsibility to somebody else, and they really couldn't help me, When you go through, see, when we talk about lawlessness, we're talking about like a beast mentality. And we got that first beast that I went through, that second beast that I went through, and now I'm on that 7-headed beast, And all of them, they all act the same. And I might be sounding crazy to some of y'all at this point, because you don't understand the context by which I'm speaking. But every beast works the same. They hurt you when you're little and defenseless. They exploit you, they use you, they turn you into their servant. And as you get older, as you get older and you get a little wiser, and you learn that when they tell you to do something, you get punished for what they tell you to do. You learn not to listen to them, and you learn to stand on your own. But they can't handle that, so then they attack you, That first beast, no different from that second beast. When I stopped doing everything he said and said, no, this is wrong. We're not married. I shouldn't be doing this, That second beast, same thing. Go on and attack me, and go on and attack me the same way. Work the people around me, ruin my reputation, play my victim. That seven-headed beast, same thing. Work the people around me, play my victim, ruin my reputation, It's the same thing all the way across. And the one thing that cuts this beast off, the one thing that tells us how to handle our problems in life is law, No, we can't be ruled by our opinions, not even under the power of agreement, We have to know what is right and what is wrong. And so if we catch our problems early enough, sex is the benefit of marriage, then we come to understand that we don't have to worry about abortions. This is where you see my pro-life stance come through. We don't need to get an abortion because we didn't have sex as a sport. We had sex as the benefit of marriage. And so there's no need to kill the child. And the child can come through as the redemption for the world. The child can come through as redemption for the family, that uniting little bundle of joy that changes the nature of people, My daughter, when she was little, her grandmother was just horrible. Oh man, people were so afraid of her. She was just nasty and vicious. And I'm not talking trash, okay? But when my daughter was born, and this woman, she held the baby, and then her community, people that she worked with, I had met them, they would say how much she changed when this child came into her life. This child brought hope to her. This child brought some standards that she didn't have before, where she wouldn't be so angry, where she wouldn't be so violent. It's where you really start to understand how children bring about your redemption. And not only that, a righteous woman is proved righteous by her children. You understand? You kill a child, you take away your redemption. So never mind this whole abortion debate where we say pro-choice, pro-life, because you let the problem go too far. You can't solve the problem right here. You have to back up 10 steps and understand the purpose of children. Understand the purpose of sex, It's to procreate. It's to create life, It's to bring your redemption. It's the hope for the next generation. Where we screw up in this generation, we set right in the next one. Like, you're going to learn from my mistakes and not do this. Like, my daughters, I hope they learn from my mistakes, and my sons too. Sex is the benefit of marriage. They've heard me say it enough in life. I hope that they honor the morality that I put in them, and then you don't have to worry about that, because we can't say what is right or wrong there. We can debate all day long, but we really don't have an answer for it, right? We need someone else to give us law. And at what point can the law help us? Well, it helps us if we catch ourselves before we get into these massive problems. It's why they had these requirements put in place. Why, like for the Jewish people, let's say, they cover up themselves, right? Like, even what I'm wearing here with short sleeves would be considered, taboo there, They would tell me to cover my arms, They might tell me to cover my hair, They live this way so that they can avoid the problems later on. Because you have to be responsible for temptation with other people. And it's not about that other person can't control themselves. It's about taking responsibility for the problems in the world, and understanding that you play a part in it, and you can do this. You can make this change to your life. You know, you can do this. This was within your power to do, and you do it because you want to make a better world, because you want to see redemption come. So you cover up, right? I understand that, and I think we should have more of that. I think booty shorts should be outlawed. You know, maybe I don't need to wear a hijab. Maybe I don't need to be covered with just my eyes showing, you know. But maybe I don't need to walk around in booty shorts, you know. That's a little too much temptation for some men. You know, you shouldn't be putting men in that position and acting like it's their responsibility, because hormones kick and men can't control it, okay? It's not fair. It's not how you build a better world. You build a better world by respecting one another, and the way you start respecting one another is to dress a little more conservatively, you know? Eliminate the temptation. What else do Jewish people do? Well, they have laws against gossip. We don't spread rumors around people because we don't know what's true, what's not true. And if we murder the wrong person with our words, that is murder, and we're responsible for taking their life. A judgment can come on us. So we don't talk gossip. What's some other things that Jewish people do? And I'm not telling you to go and convert and be a Jew, because I don't believe in conversions. But you got to understand that there are some things that I said you could learn from them, and these are those things, you know. When they come together for relationships, one of the first things they do is they sit down and discuss the rules of the relationship. You know, when young people meet each other, okay, what's the rules for this? You know, clarify the law before you get going in a process and you're led by these hormones that you can't control. Put the law in place to you know, set out expectations, you know, to put up parameters, boundaries on the relationship, so that when you feel yourself going here, you can walk away before you're just a raging bag of hormones and you're ripping each other's clothes off, you know. And you can avoid this whole abortion debate if you just back up a little bit and make yourself responsible for governing, for making the world a better place, you know. And that's basically what I was sitting and talking to God about earlier. I think my son needs me. Are you letting Luna out? Did you need something, or are you just bringing her out? My dog is funny. She wants to be with me, but she doesn't want to be outside right now because the fireworks that were popping off, she got so scared. You know, she's got all these little baby teddy bears and everything. And she had some of them scattered around the yard, some of them upstairs. And when these fireworks were popping off, you know, the last 2 nights, she ran around everywhere. She wanted out, she grabbed her baby, she came back in. And she wanted back out, she grabbed another baby, came back in. Ran upstairs, you know, she's got this head, she butts open the door, you know. She's a funny dog. But she's afraid to come outside and stay outside. I have to, like, force her out here to go pee. And I tried to bring her out here when I came, but she didn't want to come. And now she wants to come. So, I'm making the video, so I didn't want to walk away. But, yeah, you know, my son was trying to help her out. I think I'm going to have to cut the video off again and go help my puppy. So, but I hope you get the gist of what I was saying, you know. And I hope you understand that God helps me. He doesn't necessarily tell me to tell you this, but he tells me where I'm misunderstood, and he helps me to understand what I need to explain to you, you know, how it relates to lawlessness. Lawlessness will have you choosing this or that, and it will, like, undermine laws in having you make this choice. So you don't even see, like 10 steps ago, we were in this place where, you know, we had shotgun weddings if a boy stepped out of line, you know. And now we're here fighting over abortions. But you see these lawless people, they take off limits. They take off limits, they take off laws, and then they have you, pardon me, take off consequences. And all of a sudden, it's just like one big orgy of society, and it's crazy. It's heartless, it's thoughtless, it has no place for someone like me, which is why I say I can't make the decision for you. You don't share my Constitution. But I share my Constitution with you, and I share with you, like the Jews' Constitution, right? Their law, like their oral Torah, like what dictates their society, because they are the people that I am most closely related to, even though I'm not so sure they accept me so much. But I mean, I'm not a Jew. My grandmother might have been, but I wasn't raised a Jew. I don't agree with some things, particularly in the lines of philosophy. And, you know, the old Rambam said, you don't need to study Torah, just study philosophy. Dedicate your lives to philosophy. Torah 1 hour a week. You know, philosophy the rest. And philosophy, go back to Aristotle and what he did. It undermined all of creation, right? It took the laws off. It took the limits off, you know. It stirred up trouble. It caused confusion. You see this. You don't see it so much with Alexander the Great, who was his direct student. You don't see it so much because evil didn't show its face so much, you know. But the more society is corrupted through generations, the more it sees its face. And today it doesn't even hide itself, you know. It does lewd acts in public, you know. It doesn't even care to hide itself, you know. It condemns people with laws. It mocks them. It ridicules them. It calls them nervous Nancy, you know. You gotta be careful of these lawless ones, because